Wagwan Mandem, what are you telling me? In this video we're going to have a look at how to structure the document using semantic elements and how to work out the structure of a simple website. Now HTML is not just about chucking in paragraphs and images. It's got block level elements to sort out areas of your site like the header, the navigation menu and the main content. Now this video shows you how to plan a basic site layout and write the HTML to make it happen. Now let's dive in and get your site structure on point. Let's get into it. Alright fam, a lot of sites can look pretty different from one another. Most sites share similar components unless they're showing a full screen video, game, or if they're just badly structured. So let's go through the basic sections of a page. Now this is the header element. Now this is usually a big strip at the top with a main heading, logo, or maybe even a tagline. Now this bit stays the same across all pages. Next we've got the nav element, which I show just here. Now this usually links to the main sections of the site, like the menu buttons or tabs, and as you can see here we've got the different pages. Now this stays consistent to avoid confusing users. Some say it's part of the header, but keeping them separate with the header can be better for accessibility, as screen readers can read the two features better if they're separate. Next we've got the main element. Now the main content is the big area in the center of the page usually with the unique content of the page, like videos, stories, maps, news headlines. Now this bit changes from page to page. Now next up we've got the sidebar, which you can see here. This isn't really used a lot in pages nowadays, but before this was definitely a big feature in quite a lot of pages. Now we use the aside element to put all the content for the sidebar. Now this can usually include stuff like links, quotes, or even banner ads. It's usually related to the main content, but it can also have recurring elements like a secondary nav system. And lastly, we've got the footer. Yeah, so the footer is usually the strip at the bottom with fine print, copyright, or even contact info. Usually for quite a lot of sites, they usually put the contact info in the footer. Now sometimes used for SEO with links to popular content. Alright, now this basic example isn't pretty, but it's spot on for showing a typical site layout. Now some sites have more columns and are more complex, but you get the gist. With the right CSS, you can style any element to look slick. But remember, it's all about using the right element for the right job. Now, in later videos, we'll go through CSS and styling and go through how to kind of make this look a lot better. Now, visuals don't tell the whole story. We use colors and font sizes to guide sighted users. But what about the visually impaired? Around 8% of men and 0.5% of women are colorblind. Across the world, there's about 4 to 5% of the population that have some degree of vision loss. Now, in the HTML, we can use specific tags to mark sections of the content, making it clear and accessible. Assistive tech like screen readers can then easily navigate the site, and here's how you do it. Now for the header of the page, you'd want to wrap this with the header element that we've gone through. I'll just show it right here. So we've just got a H1, which is the biggest heading of the page, and we've gone through this in a previous video. Now for the navigation, you'd wrap a nav element around it. Now for the main content of the page, we'd use the main element. However, within this you can use article elements, section elements, and div elements for subsections. For the sidebar, the aside element is reserved for this. And for the footer, you guessed it, we use the footer element. Now using the right tags not only keeps things clean, but also helps everyone, including those using screen readers, to navigate your site better. Now it's important to get clued up on the HTML sectioning elements. As you get more experience, you'll start to understand these better. So let's just go over them again, the main bits that you need to know. The main element is for the unique content on the page, used only once. Now this is directly inside the body. And I'll just show it to you right here. Now we use the article for content that stands alone without the rest of the page, like a blog post. Now we use sections to group part of a page with a single theme or functionality. It's considered best practice to start these sections with a heading. Now the aside is for content related to the main content, like bios or links. The header is for introductory content of a page or a section. If it's a direct child element of the body, this defines the global header of the page. However, we can use the header element inside articles and sections, and that defines a specific header for that section. Now don't get this confused with titles and headings. Now for the nav element, this is the main navigation functionality for the page. And the footer represents a group of end content of the page. Sometimes you won't find the perfect semantic element to group or wrap content. When that happens, use div for block level and span for inline elements. These elements are non-semantic but handy for CSS or JavaScript targeting. Always use a class attribute to label them for easy targeting. Now let's get rid of this example and let me just paste in. Okay, now we've pasted this in. Let me just remove all the styling that we currently have. A span is an inline element which you should only use if you can't think of a better semantic text element to wrap your content, or don't want to add any specific meaning. For example, here we've got this text wrapped in a span element with a class of editor note. Now if we wanted to target it in the CSS, I'll just do this. I'll use a font style of italic and close this off. So you can see that it is slightly different in the page. Now, in this example, the editor's note is there to give extra direction for the plays director. It doesn't add extra semantic meaning. Now, for sighted users, you can use CSS to separate the note from the main text a bit. Now, a div, short for division, is a block level element for grouping bigger chunks of content. Perfect when nothing else fits. Now, let me use this example of a shopping cart. We have the div surrounding the H2 and the list, including the paragraph text here. Now, this isn't really an aside element, since it doesn't relate directly to the main content of the page, and you want it viewable from anywhere. It's not a section either, as it's not part of the main content. We've added a heading to help screen reader users find it. Divs are convenient to use, but don't overuse them. They add no semantic value and can clutter your HTML. So use them only when there's no better option, or you'll struggle to update and maintain your code. Now, two elements you'll want to know about are line breaks and horizontal rules. So the line break element creates a line break in a paragraph. This is perfect for fixed short lines like in a poem or address. For example, we've got this here. As you can see, we've got the line break at the end of each line to then cause a line break within the HTML. Now, without the line break, the paragraph would be one long line. So let's say if I take all this out and just save it, as you can see, it's just one long line. As we spoke about in an earlier video, HTML ignores most white spaces. So the line break element forces it to break where you want it to. So let's just put this back in. Now the second one, which is the horizontal rule element. Now this element creates a horizontal rule in your document to show a change in topic or scene. Now visually it's just a horizontal line. So this is how it looks. So we've got chapter 1, the beginning, then we've got the horizontal rule element, and then chapter 2. And as we can see here, it adds this horizontal line by default. Now we can change the style if we wanted to use CSS, but essentially this line helps separate sections, making your content easier to read. And you should use it whenever you need a clear break between themes or sections in your text. After sorting out the structure of a single page, you need to think about the content of your whole site. Now this is called information architecture. Now for a small site, this can be pretty straightforward and even a bit of fun. Now let's go back to our previous example. I'm just going to use Command Z or Control Z to go back to how we had it before. We need to do the same with the style CSS. Every page should have some common bits, like the navigation menu and the footer content. So the footer content can have contact info, copyright, terms and conditions, the lot. This stays the same on each page that you're on. So if your site is for a business or portfolio, it's a good idea to have your contact info available on the footer in each page. Just think about what you want to have common in every page. Now it's best to draw a rough sketch of each page layout. For example, the header, if it's going to have a title and a logo, the main content, sidebars, which is optional, and you don't really see it nowadays in quite a lot of websites, and also the footer. Then you want to list all the content you want on your site. Now for, let's say, a travel site, you might include a search function, special offers, country-specific information, search results, and a shopping cart. Now you can sort the content into groups to figure out what goes where. For example, like the search, the specials, country information, search results, buy items. Then you would draw a rough sitemap showing how pages link together. Now the homepage would be central, linking to most other pages. For example, like we've got here, we've got the team, projects, and contact. You want to make sure that the main navigation covers the key pages. By planning it out like this, you'll create a site that's easy to navigate and user-friendly. Alright, that's a wrap on planning and structuring your HTML documents and websites. Now remember, nailing down your site's information architecture is key to creating a smooth user experience. Now use these common elements wisely, sketch out your layouts, and organize your content into clear, logical groups. Now in the next video, we'll be looking into debugging HTML. Peace.